to Hizzo J, everyone's favorite Nigerian.
This that real life shit, nigga.
Let's go into real talk. So Buju Banton had a Drink Champs interview. And dog, you want to this is technically your topic.
I had never heard of him.
Likewise.
Wow.
Likewise.
Okay. Interesting. Y'all never heard any of the DJ Khaled albums? He'd be featuring on there a lot.
Maybe.
For sure.
Maybe,
that's like that's the easiest way I could,
Yeah. I mean, just dancehall,
but
and reggae in general.
It's like maybe I've heard his music.
him, right?
Okay.
But to identify him as a person, like I feel in the wrong.
He
So I
was
was like,
fun to
dang.
watch. I like his face. The video was.
Yeah, he's very well spoken for somebody who smokes as much as he does.
He is a beautiful man. I loved it. I love the video.
he's an Igbo man too.
I thought of you when I saw that.
Yeah, he's Nigerian descent.
Before he said that, I was looking at his face. I was like,
You can vote.
especially in the nose too. I was like, he might be Igbo, and then he said it.
So,
but okay,
just to all right, let's just introduce it. So there's a viral clip going around of Buju talking about Afrobeats music and how it's not really unifying Africa, and it's more there's no uplifting songs currently in Afrobeats music. But as we all know, with clips and clips culture, you don't really get the context behind it. So we ended up watching. I think I told you guys like the first 30 minutes. I ended up watching like the full interview just because I was just this is a good interview. Like, and I'd be at work, just need something to listen to.
Good. I didn't watch the whole thing, but
so he does add some more context to it, and he doesn't just talk about Afrobeats in that sense. He also talks about dancehall also not being of anything like
substance or
nothing of substance
conscious message to it.
I think what he was saying
Liberation.
more because there's so much going on in Africa when you talk about like the Congo, when you talk about Nigeria, when you talk about Sudan,
South Sudan.
like there's certain things where it's like this is when the Fela Kutis would like come out with a song and talking about the government, things of that nature, and that's also like how he was in Jamaica, and him and everybody that he came up with, like that's what they know, right? So it was a little bit old headish of him, but at the same time, I think he did make like a good point. Listening to his reasoning, I don't think it was as out there as the clip at first suggested.
I think that he was right. And I think the way that I looked at it is music is a language, and one of the first language, at least for our people to communicate. He was talking about the drums, but even when you think about African history and how stories would be passed down through music, like the way that we had ownership over that language obviously has changed. And so he was talking about how the difference between dancehall and reggae is the life that it brings, or like the togetherness that it brings, and or not. And I think that all music, really, it was a microcosm of what's happening in all music. It's not really uplifting. I think generally, like probably why I haven't heard of him is I'm really intentionally trying to only listen to people who are uplifting me or putting some positivity into my subconscious, which is a whole nother thing. But he was trying to get to, he was trying to get to the fact that we're just not together as a people, and it's coming through the music where reggae is still trying to hold up this last pillar.
Y'all are raising some actually good points here, for sure. I think before I watched the interview, I was wholeheartedly against it. But once I heard him actually speak on it, then I was like, okay, I can kind of see where you're coming from.
You were against what?
Just what he was saying. Basically that Afrobeats is not doing a job of, I guess, like liberating Africa in a time when there's a lot of turmoil in Africa right now. But I also do think that, that's why it was good that I actually watched the interview, at least the first 30 minutes, because he did start to, break it down a little bit, where he was, I guess Nori asked him the difference. Okay, so like is dancehall and like reggae, are those one and the same, or are those separate? And he was kind of explaining, dancehall is more like, it's more of obviously a dancing type of music. It's more sexualized, it's more vibey, which I feel like could be directly compared to what Afrobeats is too. It's more of a, a happy, elated type of feeling. You go out, you party. But what I didn't like maybe was that he was conflating Afrobeat and Afrobeats, because he only brought up Fela Kuti. He didn't mention any current Afrobeats artists. He didn't. So I don't know if he did later on in the interview, I think with Burna Boy.
I think that's specifically why I like his point, because people.
I guess just to let me finish. Okay. I feel like Burna Boy has done a great job of speaking out about these things. He's had big records like Collateral Damage on out of his last 4 albums. He's done a great job, like speaking out on a lot of the, the injustice that's happening with corruptions and, in the government and stuff like that. So
and that's exactly why I like his point, because under the comments people were trying to bring up Burna Boy, but if you look into Burna Boy interviews, and Burna Boy's been catching like a lot of shit for some of the shit he said about Afrobeats, where when Burna Boy was first coming up, he's like, don't call me Afrobeat, like that's fella, that's all them, like there's something totally different. There's Afrofusion, right? You can't really compare what's out now compared to like what's happening. And then I think within this past year he had a statement that he caught a lot of flack for, where he was saying, yeah, there's not a lot of substance in the music that we hear right now coming out of Africa. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of the points that people were trying to like, a lot of the counterpoints that people were using against Buju is like, you can't use Burna Boy because Burna Boy would agree with Buju.
I think if we look at it in rap terms, it's like saying Kendrick and Cole are the only options for rap because they're talking about things that we should care about. And then when you think about what happened with Meg Thee Stallion and Kamala Harris's rally, they had her saying that she shouldn't have been there because she was twerking, but also that's what's relatable to the people. And Meg does talk about things in the community. And so I think to the Burna Boy point, like she kind of equates in that regard, but also we need both. We need the consciousness, and then we just need something to like relax and let our hair down. And you can't have too much of the one of the other, but for the most part, we should be trending forward or positive, and we aren't. And that's not music's fault entirely.
Why were niggas even mad at Meg? She barely. I went and looked. I was just like,
she kept it very calm.
Yeah,
it was pretty calm.
It was like
covered. That's the most covered up too I seen her. It was pretty.
When was
it was
this?
PG-13.
This is like 3 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago too. Yeah.
Really? I haven't seen or heard anything about
and
this.
it was in Atlanta, so I was kind of like, what did you want to
expect?
It was in Iowa.
I felt really called out by the first 30 minutes because I was just like, he was just saying that like it's very sexualized and they just want to dance and they don't want to like talk about the stuff that's real. And I was like, that's so true. I only want to hear stuff that makes me want to dance, and I just want to like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of like an escape from like all the stuff that's going on and hearing all the things that are going on here and then things that are going on around the world. It's just like, it's heavy for me sometimes to handle. So I like the idea of just like feeling free and just being able to dance and not really listen to the words or know all the things that are behind it, but to just have fun. But I also was like, dang, like that's pretty deep that like, it's not what it used to be. I mean, things evolve, but I don't know. We're losing something that was like something positive.
But I think that's also like one of his points. Like, there's two sides to every coin. That's why he kept talking about like reggae and dancehall. Like,
yeah, because he said you could. He was like, and wine to this. And
it's like you could have like, it's okay to have dancehall, but also have some reggae music so that we could talk about what needs to be talked about.
Yeah, And I was like, I don't know anything about anything, so I just felt really called out, and I was like, dang, like he's right.
Just like last point, I wanted to just make, because I felt like he wasn't really speaking on any one specific African country. He's just talking about Africa as a whole. And it's like, when you do that, there's so many different languages and dialects and things in Africa versus Jamaica, which is a smaller island, and there's a unified language. So you can get things across more easily. In Africa, there are many artists. There's like artists like Timia that have these politically conscious records, but they're not always in English. There might be in a certain dialect. Maybe they're from Botswana or Ghana or wherever, or they're French. You know what I mean? There's a lot of French Afrobeat artists too. So certain shit is getting pushed because, again, like Imani said, there's more mainstream artists and they're pushing, the dance records and the happy records and the promiscuous ones. But I think that he just was making a big generalization that I don't agree with.
He also made a quiet little point about the industry and saying how KRS-One type music was pushed out. And so thinking about the intentionality of what's getting pushed is a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. And that's also that was a good point, Chelsea. I was about to say like something similar, because in his point of view, he could only speak generally, right? Especially if he's trying to make like a specific point in regards to what type of content's going to be like pushed out. Like, hey, if you make it big, and not just if you're just like coming up with music, because you could say anybody's making a political statement, but that doesn't mean everybody's hearing it. So once you do make it big, like where are you standing? Are you on the left? Are you on the right? Are you in the middle? Are you on the fence? So I don't know.
Yeah, I just felt like Burna Boy is the biggest Afrobeats artist. Did he bring him up specifically at any point during the interview?
He didn't bring up any specific artists.
Okay.
And he also explained why he didn't name anybody later in the interview. I think they're doing quick whatever in slime.
Quick time to slime.
Yeah. And he was all like, I don't want to talk bad about anybody because they were trying to have him choose between different artists, and then if he can't, you gotta take a shot, you know. Okay. So he was just like, hey, why are you guys doing this? Is it a bad thing if I don't say like somebody's name? Because the way that I was brought up as somebody who's like a Rastafarian, like that's against like my beliefs. Like I'm not trying to talk bad on any specific person, especially if they're not in the room to defend themselves. So
I respect that.
The only reason why I brought that up is just because I guess now you're clearing it up. But from that clip, it felt like he was talking about somebody specifically. So I was just kind of trying to read between the lines. Like, who is he talking about? Yeah. I feel like Burna's the biggest Afrobeats artist, and he's doing what you're saying. So I don't know what more. I don't know. What more do you want?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't put Burna in like the Fela Kuti conversation in terms of like.
Oh no, not all the way there.
In terms of like topically, what Buju's talking about.
No,
right.
No, that's a whole separate thing.
Yeah, I would say he casually brings things up, but it's not like full on songs like talking down on the government. Like,
I just said collateral damage earlier. I have two other ones too. Monsters You Made as well too. He's talking about the corruption in Nigeria. That was on Twice as Tall, and then Common Person.
I think it's almost incomparable what Fela was singing about.
I'm not
comparing. That's my main point.
No, never like, comparing that. It's two separate things. Though. Yeah. That would be like saying like, all right, did Fela get the radio play that Burna Boy has right now? Like, what are we talking about? It's two separate things.
I think Fela did, and that's why I made it all the way to Jamaica. Everybody knows Fela Kuti.
Okay.
I don't know.
Everybody knows.
If you know Burna Boy,
I'm not gonna say everybody knows Fela Kuti.
Well, yes. Okay, my bad for the generalization. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We can't.
Who is Fela Kuti?
Like we can't speak hyperbolic anymore, or we just gonna take everything literal.
I just want to be clear.
Because I can say everybody knows Obama, but you guys know what I say when I say everybody knows Obama. Not literally every single human being on earth.